We are previewing Buffalo Bills training camp at St. John Fisher this year, 2025. We are going to go over the roster, biggest training camp questions and battles going into the season. Let's go.
To my friend Nate and all the listeners of this podcast, no one circles the wagons than Nate Discate. Circle the wagons, Buffalo.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now?
Hey, let's go Buffalo. Hey, let's go Buffalo.
The Bills make me wanna.
What is up, Bills Mafia? Welcome to another episode of Circling the Wagons, a Buffalo fan base podcast. I am your host, Nate, guys. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It has been a minute since we've talked Buffalo Bills with you guys. It has been since the draft. John, we haven't talked since the draft. You know how long it's been? There was actually a little bit of some cobwebs on my laptop down here in the basement, so I knew it had been a while. But I'm joined by my co-host, John. John, it is so good to talk to you, man. How are you doing?
I am excited for training camp. I can't wait.
I can't believe it's coming up. I can't believe it's here. Summer just started, but training camp is still it's right around the corner. St. John Fisher. Right now, we are less than 2 weeks away. So we have a bunch of different items to discuss, things as far as, John, let's just get into it. I have a bunch of different questions here, but I'm going to share my screen right here with the folks that are watching, and we're going to go through some of the quarterback or the positional areas within the roster, starting with the quarterback. I have it right now as kind of like what I see as the 53-man roster. It's not exact at this point. I don't think I've even counted it just to be safe, to be sure that we're right at 53 players, but that's always fun discussion, John, as far as the outlook on the position, what could happen one way or the other, good or bad, what could be the changing factors for some players that are either on the bubble or maybe on the bubble for the starting position. There's a lot of things to discuss, John. So let's start with quarterback. This one seems pretty set, I would say, from the beginning. One thing that's interesting, John, and it's weird to have a little bit of drama already on the quarterback position, but quarterback 2, I think, is a possibility where you may see the Bills potentially go to Mike White if Mitch Trubisky is having issues in training camp, if he falters a lot with number 2 team, second team. I could see there being an opportunity where, hey, wait, all of a sudden Mike White is getting the second team reps, right? I mean, because Mitch Trubisky, he's been in the league for a while. He hasn't proven a ton. I mean, as far as a backup, he's okay. He's definitely not the guy you want as your starter. But then Mike White has also shown some flashes in backup capacities, starting roles. I think he's a little bit more of an accurate passer than Mitchell Trubisky is. I think, but they love Mitch Trubisky. I mean, Josh Allen's really good friends with him. So, John, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Do you think that's even a possibility that we don't see Mitch Trubisky sitting behind Josh Allen? And could this be Mike White opportunity, a younger guy, a guy that maybe has a little bit more upside than Mitch, becoming Josh's backup?
I like both guys. I think you're right, though. It's open competition behind Josh, and whoever gets it gets it. I do like both guys. I think Mike White has shown a lot of grit. The Bulls have played against him. Trubisky's kind of, he's been around too. But yeah, I think either guy could end up being the main backup.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I think about Hard Knocks when it comes to these guys on the bubble, like guys that might not make the roster, because Hard Knocks loves those stories, right? Where this guy, he's a long shot, or he's on the bubble, but can he make it? Can he make the plays that he needs to in training camp to make the roster? I mean, that's a lot of what Hard Knocks is. So it's going to be interesting to see, if this is one of those competitions. I doubt it is, but it makes me think about that moving on. John, we haven't talked since, April, as far as the Hard Knocks, series coming to Rochester, coming to training camp, the Buffalo Bills being on it for the first time. Are you for it, against it? Do you not care? What are your thoughts on that one?
I think I don't care, but I think there was probably a long period of time where I would have cared and I didn't want it. Now I think because of the culture that they have, and I don't think it matters from a being prepared perspective. So I think it's fine. I don't get HBO, so I'm not gonna watch that anyway. So
John, I'll have you over. I'll have you over to watch it on my Max subscription that I'm stealing from someone else. So I I'm kind of interested in. At first I was like, I was thinking, it's just a distraction. The Bills don't need any more distractions. And I think that you could argue that not a lot of positive things will come from it. Uh, I think back to, which clip gets played the most of the recent Hard Knocks, where the Giants had like kind of like a preseason version of Hard Knocks last year, and they were talking about how they should trade Saquon Barkley, and that clearly ended up being a very dumb decision for them. Great decision for the Eagles, but dumb on their part. And I could see an area where the Buffalo Bills maybe make a decision, or we see them in a non-positive light. But maybe that's not a bad thing, because I love the red and blue series that the Bills media team does. I think they do an excellent job. It's almost like the Bills version of Hard Knocks, like every week. It's really cool. The problem is you don't see the bad stuff ever, like even things that could be marginally bad from that, obviously. So I think it would be cool to see like maybe something that McDermott does or the players do that you're like, oh, I didn't know that they did that. The extreme would be Sean McDermott, saying that the terrorists were, really good teammates and worked together really well. Like that would be a very bad moment. And I don't think that they would show something like that. I know that the team gets final say in what gets put in. And I'm sure anyone in the Bills PR room would be like, yeah, we're not going to show that to the masses. But I could see something, maybe a little bit different that comes across where the Bills, media team would say, we're not going to put that in there. But Hard Knocks maybe says, maybe we will. So again, I know the Bills have final say, but I think it'll be interesting to see things that aren't completely edited to exactly what the Buffalo Bills want you to see. You know what I mean?
I don't think I think it's gonna be great. Extra content for Bills fans to watch, and I don't think it's to be a detriment to the team at all. I think it's gonna be fun.
No, if anything, it'll be good because a lot of the players that we like as Bills fans, and it's going to open them up to a bigger audience. Players that you and I and the rest of Bills Mafia loves, like Josh Allen, of course, but like Deion Dawkins, like people are going to see him. I think Trey White would be a tremendous story for Hard Knocks, him coming back to Buffalo for a second, stint. I mean, Trey has one of those infectious players that you love him. I mean, we loved him when he was here the first time, and he's easy to like. He's easy. He's charismatic. I think about guys like Keon Coleman would be great for Hard Knocks. With personality wise, uh, stuff like that. So I don't think those guys would be on for necessarily like roster bubble segments, but
It seems really cool, like to see them like on Hard Knocks, and then they win the Super Bowl after. Like it's gonna be really great.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Let's go into the running back room, and we have obviously James Cook. I don't think at this point he's really the biggest question mark on the team, as far as he's going to be the running back one, and for all intents and purposes, he'll be there at training camp day one. Again, going through these positional groups, I don't think there will be a player where there's or a position here where there's really a battle. I have them keeping at this point at least Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, obviously, and then Reggie Gilliam more as the special teams, like the fullback role. But it'll be interesting to see if Ray Davis really does overtake Ty Johnson in that running back two role, and if one does emerge, because ideally you have a player that will replace James Cook in a year. I don't think that, at least personally, I don't think James Cook comes back next year. I think that they don't make him the offer that he wants, and I don't think that the Bills have ever paid a running back a second contract under Brandon Beane. So I don't see a world where James Cook comes back. So it'll be interesting to see if Ray Davis can take a little bit more of a workload so that he could potentially be that James Cook, and they end up drafting someone else next year, or they end up signing another, or maybe it's Frank Gore Jr. here. Like I shouldn't count him out. Like there's a possibility maybe he becomes a third back next year. So it'll be interesting. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, or they draft somebody to be the number one back, and with the second round pick next year type of thing. But no, I don't think Cook is going to be back either, unfortunately. But that's just the way it goes sometimes. You can't pay everybody, and that's how it works out.
Am I looking too far into this? Because the Bills, when they drafted James Cook, they traded back, I want to say 2 or 3 times into the second round before they actually drafted him. I'm not saying that they didn't want him, but he was not their best player on the board for several picks. So part of me thinks that might factor into the fact that like they took him, but they weren't like, we're dying to get this guy. Because the Bills will always either draft, trade up, or they'll pick their guy. They won't keep trading back if there's a guy they like. I think there was a bunch of guys they liked, and I think that eventually they thought he was the best one of the group, but I don't think that they were in love with the pick when they drafted him. I think they liked it. I'm sure they were happy with it, but this wasn't a like, we had to trade up and get our guy, like the Dalton Kincaid pick. I think this was just a guy that they liked, and that, along with the fact that he actually had less percentage of snaps last year than he did in 2023, I think that this is a running back by committee. And if this is a running back by committee because of James Cook and they can't rely on him to take the workload, then that again doesn't work in James Cook's favor. Or this is the way they want to run the offense as a running back by committee, and that also doesn't work in James Cook's favor. So neither one are really helping.
I think it's the latter. And then like when they did draft him, I think didn't they already have Zach Moss or somebody that was a second or third round pick, third round, I think. So same kind of deal. And I don't know. Well, however it works out, it works out. Like, running backs, to me, like I get you can have your Saquon Barkleys and Derrick Henrys and whatever, but I've been harping on it for years. Like they maybe because I've been tainted with like all these first and second round and trades for some running backs over the drought years where they should have been like taking shots on quarterbacks instead of running backs. Or even when they did have a quarterback like Drew Bledsoe, they whiffed on all these offensive linemen. Like I'd rather take my chances in other positions. So it stinks because I love running backs. Like I love watching running backs. I love watching the old you got Thurman Thomas, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, and Earl Campbell, and like all these guys, fantastic in the 80s and 90s, and even to today, like there's great running backs. But are they as important anymore as some other positions, including defense? It's hard. It's hard to prioritize these things.
John Robert, by the way, if you're listening or watching live and you want to add a comment or question, John, feel free to do so. John Robert has already been in. He came in again. He says Cook only played 47% of the time last season, which is a great stat because if you look, Joe B did a great article about this. If you look at the top 10 highest paid running backs, all but one have over 60% of the snaps on offense. So you're talking, like you said, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. Derrick Henry, I think, was the only one that was like at 57%, but all the other ones were above 60%. But, Saquon Barkley, I mean, Bijan Robinson, all those guys, like they're really, really important to their offense. And the Bills just never. The Bills have tried to trade for, Alvin Kamara, right? Or Christian McCaffrey, or who else? I don't think they've ever been in for Saquon Barkley. But
I think part of that is like they are willing to look at all players from a trade perspective. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but they're going to try, right? Like if they can get a good deal, a good value deal, which I'm completely happy with. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. They can't get good value for a player they're trying to trade for, fine. But I like the idea of trying.
Yeah, I agree. I like, and if it comes, John Roberts in for a second time. He says, sign McGovern first, Connor McGovern first. And John, when I look at the Bills offense, and, it has to do a lot, with the play calling, with them going to a more run-based offense, taking some of the load off Josh Allen's shoulders, helping him be more efficient as a passer by doing that. But a lot of that goes to the Bills' offensive line being one of the best in the NFL. And when I think of, would I rather sign James Cook to a really large deal or take that money and re-sign Connor McGovern or David Edwards at guard? John, you and I have lived through seasons where they've had amazing running backs. I remember one year what they have: Marshawn Lynch, Connor, or CJ Spiller, and Fred Jackson, right? Or something ridiculous like that. Like, how many games did they win? They never broke the drought with those guys. You could have a stack of amazing running backs, but last year was the best offensive line I think we've seen since the 90s, right? And they looked great. That was an amazing offense, one of the best in the NFL.
I mean, you still have to have Conor McGovern's 32, so he's getting up there. So they need to have. I know they got Cedric Van Prank Granger. They got some other guys in the mix, but something to think about. He's getting older. But no, I agree. From if I'm picking between a running back and some of these other positions, I'm probably going to pick between some of these other positions.
Oh yeah, especially the offensive line, especially when it comes to protecting Josh Allen, right? And I didn't know Connor McGovern was 32. For some reason, I thought he was like 29 or something. So yeah, he has some. I'd be interested to see. I think Josh Allen makes a decision on this one, because if Josh Allen wants his center back, I'm sure they'll do it, right? But it will be interesting to see. Now I'm going over to the interior offensive lineman. Alec Anderson is still around. Cedric Van Prank Granger is a player that I'm really going to be interested. So when Bills fans are, watching and reading articles about what's going on at camp, I think that we should be paying attention to Cedric Van Prank Granger. Is he playing with the second team, which I expect he will be, but is he playing with the second team? How is he doing with this? How is he doing with the team? How is he doing with the players there, with Mr. Trubisky, with Mike White? How is he doing blocking? How is he doing, because that was his, when Van Prank Granger was selected last year, 2024 draft, I liked that pick a lot. Even though it was a 5th-round pick, I liked it a lot. As a guy who spent all his time playing center at Georgia. And at the time, we didn't know who was going to take over for Mitch Morris. So I think Connor McGovern's done a good job. It'll be interesting to see where Van Prank Granger goes from here, because the Bills will need someone to take over at center if McGovern gets hurt. Who does that? Does Alec Anderson do that? Who takes over at center? I think last year, what was it? Will Clapp, I think it was last year. Not 100% sure, but so I think that we'll need to see a lot from him. And I think Van Prank Granger is going to make the roster. It's just a matter of, will he get more playing time at guard or center? Does he make Alec Anderson, which I show right here, does he make him replaceable as the 6th offensive lineman on the team? And then I think
Alec
there's other.
Anderson was they called his number a lot for the 6th offensive lineman lots of times last year.
John, guess how many times the Bills ran 6 offensive linemen on offensive snaps? If you were to guess a percentage.
70%.
70%. So I won't tell you what the Bills' percentage is, but the next highest percentage of teams running 6 offensive linemen was 6%. So
that was it was the Miami game where Bass kicked the 63-yarder or whatever. And it felt like every single play they're like, number, I don't remember Alec Anderson's number, but it was always Alec Anderson every single time. Oh, he's eligible, blah 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 blah, every single play. And I was like, they're running 6 offensive linemen every single play. Maybe it was just that one game they did it, but the game that it was at, but it felt like it was every play.
Yeah, it did. It felt like it was way more than so. It ended up being. So you want to give a real guess, or you want to go with 70? Another guess, I should say.
Well, based on the game I was at, it felt like 70. I don't know about all the others.
It ended up being about 14%. So, more than twice to the next team. And I think that's something that sounds like they're going to continue to do. So the question is, I have a couple of questions when it comes to this, and we won't know until the season starts. But will they finally, for once, throw to the sixth offensive lineman as he reports eligible? Because that would just throw a wrinkle in where one of my biggest criticisms of Joe Brady is I don't think he's creative enough sometimes. I think that in the Kansas City Chiefs game, they ran, the tush push play or whatever, the Buffalo Bulldozer 4 times, and I think it worked once maybe. Like, this is the time, man, to pull out all the stops. Like, they're a well-coached team. The Chiefs are a well-coached team. They know what you're going to throw at them. You have to put in a wrinkle every once in a while that they're not expecting. It was the same place every time. They didn't even try to run to the right side. So anyway,
It's a chess game, and sometimes you don't call it right. You know.
John, when we talked about the Bills draft evaluation last time in April, Mookie came on and he brought up a good point, Mookie Hawkins from Bills Buffalo fan base, and he was talking about why the Bills lost like every playoff game. And he said people are going to say the defense. And he kind of like pointed at coaching. And this is a completely different conversation altogether. It's more of an in-season conversation, but I brought this up before on social media, but I want your thoughts. Is people say the defense has been the issue, and then they also point to coaching. You look at last game, when I think about the defense, I think about Christian Benford going out of the game, right? Within the first quarter. Like, that was huge. That was detrimental to the Bills losing.
Real and playing is not good idea. Not a good sign.
But that's a coaching issue. That's why would they put a guy who looked so awful at times during the game and keep him out there? Why didn't they replace him or put in another player?
What would you put in?
I'd have put in Cam Lewis. I'd have put in.
Cam Lewis is already in though, wasn't
No,
he?
he wasn't. He wasn't in for anyone else at that
He
point.
wasn't already playing.
No, I don't believe so. Who's the other cornerback that they had on the roster? They don't have him anymore. No, Jamarcus Ingram. I'd have put Jamarcus Ingram in over at the. I mean, at some point you're just like, man, like, how can it get any worse?
I do think it is. I would definitely lean that way, like defense / coaching. It's not Josh Allen, obviously.
No.
Like, so you can say who it's not, right? It's not Josh Allen. It's not Khalil Shakir. It's not James Cook.
I think. Well, so here's a question: what would have to happen for this year for Sean McDermott to get fired? Because I've always been a proponent of Sean McDermott because I remember what it was like before him when every other coach came marching in and they were just from Rex Ryan to Shane Gailey to Dick Duran to, I mean, all these guys, they just weren't that good. And Sean McDermott is definitely the best of the bunch, but there can be something to be said that perhaps the Buffalo Bills.
So I think the one saving grace in my mind is, so if you go back to like the few years back, they had a really good defense and they all aged out. And this was supposed to be a year in transition, mostly because of the defense and some of the receivers. So they definitely reloaded on defense this year, both in free agency and with rookies. So you got to kind of give him another couple of years to redo that, right? He's the defensive-minded coach. Get the defense back on track while Josh Allen is in his prime, and there you go. Like, you can't mess with that, right? Am I wrong?
I don't think you can, but I got to be honest, losing to the Chiefs in the playoffs is getting kind of old at this point. I'm not ready to move on from McDermott, but what happens if it happens again and we lose by 3 points again? And, we look at another situation where, like the year before this last one, I remember the Bills not wanting to play Dorian Williams because he was a rookie, but they were willing to play an injured AJ Klein who had just got off the couch a couple of weeks earlier. I mean, to me, it's like, well, that I don't get decisions like that and decisions that end up hurting the team, in my opinion, going into it. I think he does a great job with culture. I think he builds a good team around him, but I think
do you think he just lucked into Josh Allen and
No,
most of us are like, well, I mean, McDermott's great because Allen is great.
no, I don't think it's that. I think the Pagulas lucked into Sean McDermott, to be honest. I mean, geez. If you look at, I don't follow the Sabres closely at all, but I follow a lot of fans on social media that are Sabres fans, and they hate what's going on with the hockey team. And from what I've heard and what I've read from them, I mean, how do you not hate what's going on over there? It's pretty bad. So no, I think Sean McDermott is a good head coach. I think he's top 10. I think he's higher than what Pro Football Focus ranked him as, one of the top returning head coaches in the NFL. I think he should be up there.
Do you think
But
he's higher than any coach the Bills have had since at least Marv Levy?
yes, I do.
Okay, so that's all we need to know.
I do, but I mean, John, how many times is this going to happen? Are we going to let out another 3 seasons? Like you just mentioned, Josh Allen's prime. Like Josh Allen's prime.
He's about halfway. He's halfway into his career right now, if not a little bit more than halfway.
So would you say? I mean, how many years does he have left in his prime? 3, maybe 2, 2, 3, and then it's going to start to.
Say that 5 or 6 at least.
So he's 29 right now. So you're saying in 36 he's still going to be in his prime? I mean, I'm
He
talking like Josh
he
Allen
is a
running and hurdling.
specimen, Nate. Come on.
He is a specimen. I guess I think that there's a point where I might consider it. I know some people are like he's worthless. He should have been fired 2 seasons ago. I'm not on that, but I do think that there's a
All right,
reason.
here's a question for you. You fire McDermott. Who do you hire instead?
Let's see. There's not many coaches I would take over Dermott.
Available people, not just anybody. Who's available that you would take?
I don't even know who's available at this point, or who's even on the hot seat. If you were to give me like a choice, like guys that I would possibly consider, I mean, I think about like Dan Campbell, right? Or Jim or John Harbaugh, obviously. Andy Reid is never going to be available, of course. And I don't think the Harbaugh brothers anytime soon. Man, there's not many that I would know about that you would take. But sometimes, John, you just need a guy that just comes in with the right X's and O's right after a coach gets fired and the culture is still there for one more season to take it.
Or you could just go through 10 more coaches in 20 more years. And
But don't you think that's kind of dependent on the fact that like Josh Allen as quarterback will probably never lead you to a season that's less than the postseason, right? Like, don't you think that's almost a given unless you
I
have
I,
com-
I can agree with that.
completely inept coaching? You'll always be in the playoffs with Josh Allen. Unless there's a major injury or completely inept coaching, you'll be in the postseason. Now, given that, the Bills have never been a 1 seed. So, what's the difference between them going in as a 7 or 6 seed versus a second or third seed? I, I mean, home field advantage, of course, but
You know what stinks? Just before the Bills got good, they changed the rule from they let an extra team in the wild card, and they decided, oh no, we'll only have one team have a bye. And the Bills would have had a bye week lots of times as the second seed.
the Bills might be in the Super Bowl at least once at this point if they had gotten the bye week for sure. For sure.
They've had injuries that deep into the season where that would have helped so much.
Mhm. That's another thing how can you blame Sean McDermott for some of these injuries that the Bills always seem to run into at the end of the season? I mean, we haven't gotten into it. So John, I don't want to hit on I want to hit on more positions before this, but like let's look at the wide receiver room. I mean, you're looking at injuries to Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel last season. I mean, those were huge injuries that affected those players. Like I think it was week 10 for Keon Coleman and his what was it a knee injury, I believe, or was it wrist injury? I can't remember. Shoulder injury. I can't remember exactly.
He's a risk. Yeah.
It was a wrist. And then Curtis Samuel had turf toe like right before training camp or during training camp. And he never was the same. And even at the end of the season, he started to look a little bit better. But I mean, that's a nagging injury, right? The Bills just cannot get good luck with that. So health is going to be a huge thing again going into the postseason this year. But John, here's the wide receiver room as I have it: Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Elijah Moore, Justin Palmer, and Laviska Shenault, just as the kick returner for now. But I can easily change that out if we find someone, if they end up going with Ty Johnson or something like that.
I don't know how more, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I mean that's 6 receivers right there. So it's gonna be tough for the depth behind that to make the roster here.
Those
I know
guys aren't making it. Tyrell Shavers isn't making it.
Tyrell Shavers, Caden Prather was a 7th-round pick. They got, Jalen Virgil, KJ Hamler, Christian Wilkerson they brought in. Yeah, it's tough for those guys. I know there's practice squad opportunities.
If anyone makes it over Laviska Shenault, or if they add a 7th receiver, I think it's Caden Prather. I mean, why wouldn't you want to keep your rookie, on his rookie deal, right? I mean, no one's going to poach him though off the practice squad. He was a 7th round pick, so I think
Yeah, it's tough. He's 7th-round guy, but yeah, it's a weird situation where like we're kind of unsure, like as fans, of the top of the receiving core, but at the same time, they have a lot of depth, so it's a weird situation. But I like it. I like that they have Shakir and Coleman. I still like Coleman a lot. He played really well before he got hurt, so I'm still high on him. And then between Palmer and Moore, if just one of those guys flash, I think we're gonna be fine. And then you still have Curtis Samuel, who was also hurt last year.
Yeah, this is interesting. So I just see a comment from John Roberts. Shavers is playing better than Chenault so far. That was not the case in minicamp. Tyrell Shavers, by reports, he wasn't playing that well. He had a few easy drops, and this was a guy that we were kind of hoping would take the next step and could potentially be a fringe player. Now he can still make it up in training camp, but he's kind of working with on a step back already from, I'd say, Laviska Shenault, maybe even KJ Hamler right now. So I mean, this is a guy that I like him. His one target was a reception and a touchdown in week 18 last year. So how can you not like that?
And I think the only reason they brought Chenault in is to compete for kick returner, and I think he probably is their top kick returner right now. So he needs to show that he can play receiver as well to stay, I think. I don't know if it's enough. I know they changed the kick return rules a little bit, and that might be a reason why they brought him in, but it's going to be tough for him, I think.
It's going to be tough for Laviska Shenault or Tyrell Shavers.
I think it's going to be tough for Chenault and for the Bills to make that decision. Like, do they need that Chenault just play kick returner, or is he going to play receiver too?
Who else could play kick returner besides him?
Well, it's going to be Codrington. He's going to be a punt returner and kick returner, I think. So they usually have 2 guys on kick returns, right?
Yes.
Codrington, and it would be Chenault, and then it would be the punt returner.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be between Shenault and Codrington for that roster spot. I don't see Codrington making it as a cornerback, so it's got to be as a kick returner, right?
Yeah, I think Codrington is going to return both punts and kicks, and then Chenault's going to be possibly the second kick returner unless they figure something else out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. So, John, there's about 80 targets and 600 to 700 yards that the Bills lost between Amari Cooper and Max Hollins leaving the Bills. The big question is, do you think Khalil Shakir is still the number 1 wide receiver on the team, or will someone else take it over? And who will step up as wide receiver 2 on this roster between like the 6 players? Well, we don't have to include Shenault, but like those other 4 receivers under Shakir.
So how many targets did Shakir have last year? Like probably like 100, right?
Shakir had 100 targets, exactly 100 targets.
So I could see that increasing a little bit, maybe 120. I think after that, I could see Coleman. I'm still a big Coleman fan. I think Coleman could be the next guy here. I know you still got James Cook and you got a couple different tight ends, so that could. But as far as receivers go, I'd go Coleman. And then Palmer. If I'm going receivers, I go Shakir, Coleman, then Palmer.
I think So Joe B had mentioned in an article in The Athletic that Coleman was playing 70% of the snaps before he got injured. And if he had played the whole season, he would have, on the pace that he played the first 9 games or whatever it was before the injury, he was, let's see, on pace for, I want to say, a 900-yard season. Let's see. I can't find it. I can't find that stat, but it was something like he was on track for 900 yards receiving, which would have been more than all the Bills receivers. It would have been more than Khalil Shakir, even, who had 821 yards receiving. So I think that I agree with you, Keon Coleman. And then I think it's going to be interesting. I'm not willing to write off Curtis Samuel at this point. I think he's kind of like an X factor. But right now, man, the hype is around Elijah Moore. The hype is around him, what he can do, and how he seems to fit with this offense. What's up to Scott from 24/7 Buff Vandemonium? What's up, dude? Says, what's up, fellas? And yeah, I think Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel. I mean, I'm kind of excited, John. I think this is going to be an interesting receiving core that they have, and I think, man,
It's gonna be everybody eats just like before, but I'm gonna put Palmer over more than Samuel for targets and receptions, but we'll see.
So I mean, well, the starting three really are, if you're going to run a 3-receiver set, you have Khalil Shakir in the slot, Keon Coleman as your X receiver, and then Justin Palmer as your Z receiver, right? So like those guys should be on the field. Then it's just a matter of, who works in, because Curtis Sand. What's that?
Palmer. Josh Palmer.
Oh, sorry, Justin Palmer. Who's Justin Palmer? I don't think he exists.
It's been on the screen the whole time. I didn't even really see it.
Thank you. I mean,
I've made the same mistake with Spencer Brown.
What'd you used to call him? Spencer Johnson?
I don't remember. It might have been. Yeah,
That's
I'm looking at it on my screen and it says Spencer Brown, but I'm saying something completely different.
Good. So so Joshua Palmer, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and then you have Curtis Samuel, who's kind of like the X slash or the slot slash Z receiver. Elijah Moore, who's another slot slash Z receiver, and then Laviska Shenault is kind of like an X slash Z receiver, I think I want to say. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with those guys. So yeah, lots of things to be. But I agree. I think Keon Coleman gets the bulk of them. But I am interested to see what Curtis Samuel can do as a backup, what Joshua Palmer can do as a starter. That's going to be really interesting. So it's a fun room. It's a fun room to see, and I'm optimistic about it too. It's not just like let's just see. Let's hope it doesn't suck. It's going to be. I think these guys can do some damage.
Look at the entire offense. There's only one projected new starter, right? And it's Josh Palmer, right? Everybody else, the offensive line is the same. Shakir and Coleman is the same. You got Knox and Coleman in there, depending which grouping they are doing. Cook, Allen, everybody's the same. So, and even a lot of the second stringers, right? It's okay. Maybe Elijah Moore might be a second stringer. Even the backup offensive linemen are the same. Running back, quarterback, there's a lot of consistency on the offense.
There is, which is obviously all good. Offensive line, weapons, etc. Yeah, which leads us into the tight end group. We have Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, and right now I have Jackson Hawes, the rookie, making the roster, which I think is almost a guarantee at this point, barring injury. So the question here, John, if you're looking for training camp storylines, is will Dalton Kincaid take the next step in his career? Because last year the expectations were so high that people were thinking, oh, maybe he'll be the number one weapon for Josh Allen in his second season. And he was not. He was, the third best option, 448 yards, receiving 75 targets. He also had a knee injury that I believe he got in week 10. So that severely impacted his play. But I hate to say this because he's such a young player and we're still thinking about that dropped pass against the Chiefs on 4th down. But I'd say at this point, he's kind of been a disappointment as far as what I guess I was thinking he would end up being for the Buffalo Bills as a receiving weapon. I was thinking, Travis Kelce light, a guy that can, get 80 to 100 targets a season, get 8 to 900 yards, 7 to 8 touchdowns. I thought that was definitely doable in this offense, but he just can't get on the field and get more snaps and outsnap Dawson Knox to a greater extent, that he's kind of just a duo on that tight end, depth chart. John, what are your thoughts on him so far? Has he been a disappointment, or is that just recency bias?
There's a few things going against Kincaid. One of them is they had switched offensive coordinators. They went from 12 personnel back to more 11 personnel. Knox is more of a complete tight end, and he actually improved his pass catching abilities through the years. That you know that I was critical of him in his first and second years, but he did improve with that. But he's always been a good blocker. Kincaid has had some good blocks at times, but that's probably one of his major faults, and that's why he's not on the field as much. So that's going against him. And also in his second year, he did have more drops than his rookie year and in college, which is the reason why they drafted him, is because he didn't have as many drops. So maybe it's like a sophomore slump type of deal, but he does have to get a little bit better to be on the field more, especially if they're going to play more three wide receiver. He's kind of in a tough situation.
I mean, we were just talking about players to get more targets and receiving yards and make up for Mac Hollins and Amari Cooper. I mean, this Kincaid might be one of the beneficiaries in that realm and take off. I don't know if he'll ever be an 8 or 900 yard receiver, to be honest, at this point. I'm just with the way that they use him, the percentage of snaps he's getting, I don't know if he'll ever be that guy. But I'm optimistic because I think a healthier version of him in 2025 will be a big deal. I mean, we just mentioned Keon Coleman being injured for the second half of the season. Curtis Samuel, Dalton Kincaid was another guy that got injured, and he was never quite the same after. But it'll be
Still like Kincaid a lot, and obviously, I mean, they drafted him in the first round. They traded up for him, and I don't think that was unwarranted. I think he's still a really good player. It's just how they use him and everything else. Like everything's got to fall into place. It's a tough league.
does it feel like he could have a third year bounce back like Spencer Brown did? Like, remember, Spencer Brown became like a really good right tackle. He went from being like, is this guy gonna see a second contract, to like after his third year being like, this guy's good. This guy's actually really good. He took a leap in his third season. Could Dalton Kincaid be the second year player that gets that bump to becoming one of those players for the Bills in his third season? And then we're looking back at the end of the 2025 season saying, why did we even for a second doubt his talent? Because he had it there all along. He just needed to put it together. I could see Kincaid being one of those players.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So then I have Jackson Hawes making the team, the Bills' 5th or 6th round pick. I think he's a 5th round pick this year. Tight end out of Georgia Tech, I believe.
Third round pick.
Was he? Jackson Hawes is not a 3rd round pick.
Pretty sure it was a third round pick.
Landon Jackson was their 3rd round pick.
Jackson Hawes. No, I put it. No, I wrote it down wrong. 5th. You're right. 5th.
5th. Georgia Tech, right?
Yeah. Let me. It's my sheet here. Sorry. All right. 5th. Done.
Yeah, I'm glad we could live update your spreadsheet on the podcast. Thank God. Jackson Hawes, here's another opportunity for a guy who's like a really good blocker. He reminds me of when the Bills had Lee Smith on their team, who wasn't much of a receiving weapon, but was a really good blocker. Jackson Hawes is a guy that isn't a bad receiver. He just hasn't gotten a ton of opportunities. So the ability could be there. It just hasn't been utilized. But this is one of those things where, John, I was talking about using 6 offensive linemen earlier. Maybe Jackson Hawes is the tight end they bring in to be that 6th offensive lineman for more of a blocking role. Like that's something they could do. Maybe they take out Dalton Kincaid, who's not the best blocker. They put in Jackson Hawes and Dawson Knox. Those guys just barrel down, some linebackers and safeties. As James Cook runs for 100 yards, right? Like that's absolutely an opportunity where I could see Jackson Hawes hit a splash in his rookie season.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I like Zach Davidson too. like I didn't feel the need necessarily for them to add a tight end, but I do like Jackson Hawes, the addition. So yeah, I'm happy.
So if you're watching us live, I have the spreadsheet shown where the black line is basically the divider between where I think the active roster will be. So I don't have Zach Davidson making it, but obviously I have Jackson Hawes making it. In the next line, John, we're not going to be able to get through defense tonight because we're already at 50 minutes and we haven't even finished the offense. Great conversation. So I'm super glad we're doing this because I think we're hitting on almost everything. But let's go into offensive tackle. Obviously, Deion Dawkins, Spencer Brown, those are a given. Tylen Grable, the fifth round pick 2 seasons ago out of UCF, I believe, tackle who was doing really well last season before his injuries happened. In training camp, he was looking good. People thought he was going to take over the swing tackle job over Ryan Vandermark, and then the injury prevented that from happening. But Tylen Grable, it would be interesting. I'm going to be watching him closely to see how he does because there may come a point where the Bills cannot keep both Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown. And when that day comes, do they have somebody to replace either or, which will be interesting. So that's much more long term, but I'll be paying attention to that. Chase Lunt is a guy that I could see being on the roster bubble. He's a 6th-round pick out of UConn. Tall guy, big guy, just doesn't have a ton of experience. Is not the most. I want to say they used him more in a run-heavy offense, so I'm not sure his pass blocking is quite there yet, but it'll be interesting to see. So then you have Ryan Vandermark, who was a swing tackle last season. Will he make the roster? Will he make it over Chase Lunt? Will they decide to keep Chase Lunt as a rookie because he's on that rookie contract? Ryan Vandermark, from what I've read, is really much more suited for a left tackle, so he's not really the true swing tackle. Will that inhibit him or prohibit him from making the roster? We'll see. But it's a good, John, if you were to say which positional group has the best depth, I feel like offensive tackle might actually be one of those positions, whereas for years it felt like we didn't have any of those guys to even play starting roles. Now we have 2 really good starters, a promising young swing tackle, a rookie, and then another young tackle that we really like in Ryan Vandermark. So I think this is a good group. If they don't end up keeping Ryan Vandermark, I can definitely see him being on the trade block because what team wouldn't want to trade for a potential starting left tackle?
Offensive line in general, I think, is their biggest depth strength, I'd say.
If they were trying to trade somebody out of all the players that we've mentioned so far, Ryan Vandermark is easily the best trade target. If they were to try to trade somebody who could be because you're not trading Chase Lunt because he's unknown. He's a rookie. You're not trading Tylen Grable, again, unknown. He hasn't started. Ryan Vandermark has actually started in the NFL, and he was halfway decent doing it when I think it was Deion Dawkins was out, or Spencer Brown. I can't remember, but he looked pretty good. I want to say it was against the Chiefs, which that's no small feat going against Chris Jones on certain passing downs. So
Who's the offensive lineman they traded and became like a Pro Bowler or something?
Wyatt Teller?
Browns or something.
Yeah, Wyatt Teller.
Oh, okay, yes.
So you're thinking Vandermark's the next Wyatt Teller? Thanks, John.
I'm just, again, it was Teller. Teller's a 5th-round pick? I can't remember.
Yes. Yeah, 5th-round pick. Yep.
What was
Yeah.
Vandermark?
Undrafted. So he at minimum, instead of an all-pro, player like Wyatt Teller, he'll at least make the Pro Bowl every season. So we got that. He's my trade target for, and I can't remember the last offensive lineman being traded in the preseason. I want to say it was Cody Ford, right? I think that was the last offensive lineman he traded. So, yeah. Interior offensive lineman, and then we're going to end this one. I have Connor McGovern, obviously, at center, Osiris Torrance at right guard, David Edwards at left guard, which John Robert brought up earlier. If the Bills do not bring back David Edwards, who's going to replace him on the offense? Because both Connor McGovern and David Edwards are up for new contracts next season. So that'll be interesting to see. Maybe they keep one, maybe they keep both. Alec Anderson right now I have as the 6th offensive lineman, but the 4th guard. And then Cedric Van Pran Granger as the backup center at this point. So this is how I have it. This is actually very similar to how Joe B had it in his athletic article. But if it were up to me as of right now, if I could keep only 10 offensive or 9 offensive linemen, right now I have us keeping 4 tackles and 5 interior offensive linemen, centers and guards. I think I would choose to keep Ryan Vandemark and then possibly let Alec Anderson go.
So we're keeping how many offensive linemen? 5,
9, 9.
6, 7, 8.
So this black line is where the roster ends, the active roster ends.
So I would say I would keep Deion Dawkins, Spencer Brown, David Edwards, Osiris Torrance, Connor McGovern, Alec Anderson, Cedric Van Prangranger, Mike Edwards, and Ryan Vandermark. Is that 9? That's
Did you
9.
say Mike Edwards?
Yeah.
You would keep Mike Edwards on the active roster?
It would be between Mike Edwards and Chase Lunt, probably.
So what about Tyler Grable? You keep him, right?
That's that last spot, right? It's between Mike Edwards, Tyler Grable, and Chase Lunt.
Oh, but to me, it's
That's
no
the last-
contest if
that's
that's
the
what you're doing.
They also have Travis Clayton. It's a freebie, right? Because the international
Yep.
IPP, whatever that stands for.
Mhm.
So he's in the mix.
Yeah, after having who is the I can't remember the guy who was from the international program that was our running back who was amazing for a couple of plays. I can't remember his name. God, it sucks getting old. Everyone that's listening to this right now is just like, oh, it's like, isn't it what's his name? Can you think of it?
A running back?
Yeah, running back Christian Wade.
Oh,
Remember
okay.
Christian Wade?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like the international player at the 2022 or whatever.
It's like an official IPP thing. I think it was he just happened to be from Australia or something.
Who, Travis Clayton or Christian Wade?
That running back.
No, he was in the IPP program.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Like how far does the IPP thing go back? Because I don't remember that being a thing for that long ago, right? It's like a recent thing that it started. I thought maybe not.
International Player Pathway has been in existence since 2016. It was a trial run in 2016, and then it became fully instituted in 2017.
Okay, so a little bit longer than I would have thought, but okay, cool. I only like remember hearing about it like as they were drafting these guys in the 7th round, like, oh well, he's an IPP guy. You're like, well, okay, well, what does that mean? The last couple of years watching the draft, but okay.
Yeah, so really between us, it's like you want Ryan Vandemark, you definitely have him on your roster. It sounds like so. Then it's between Chase Lunt, Tyler Grable, and Mike Edwards, and maybe possibly Travis Clayton. But I think they definitely keep Tyler Grable in that situation.
Yeah, I think it's kind of between those guys. It's hard because they got a lot of good depth there, so it's hard to choose. It's what it's what the Bills value, like what those guys can bring to the table and what their versatility is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So John, this was fun where we did the offense. This time I went over a lot of the big training camp stories. Next week, let's go over the defense then. Let's go over special teams real quick as well. And that'll be interesting because there's some suspensions and stuff like that to talk about on the defensive line. Plus all the new additions the Bills made on the defensive line, John. This will be exciting. Not only in free agency with Joey Bosa, guys like Michael Hoyt, Larry Ogunjobi, but then also in the draft. You're talking about like Landon Jackson, which we mentioned earlier, TJ Sanders, Deion Walker. I'm still thinking on the edge. I'm still kind of high on Javon Solomon. I'm really interested to see what he's going to do. So a lot of fun discussion. John, this has been a ton of fun. Thank you for joining. Any final thoughts before we end this one? Dude, I love you too, man. So for John,
Bills,
and for me, Nate, go Bills. Thank you guys all for listening, watching, subscribing. Follow us on social media anywhere you are. We're at CTW Pod, Circling the Wagons podcast. Thank you guys all for chiming in. John, Robert, all the fellas, all the people out there that chimed in. Thank you guys all for being in it. And we're going to talk to you guys again soon.
Thank you for listening to the Circling the Wagons podcast. Download and subscribe to us in your favorite podcast service. Email us at ctwpod@gmail.com. That's Charlie Tango Whiskey Pod @gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at CTWPod. And most importantly, go Bills!
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, Nate.
Well, listen, the whole show is called Circling the Wagons. Say no more. I love it.